So, just to finish off the story, these are the culprits. That is the one who was the head of the RBS in 2008, and his name is goodness me. So that is Hester. There's the guillotine. We don't have a picture of David Miliband. He fled the same week as Hester fled the same week as that picture was published on the front page of my website. Still on the front page of my website, but I've lowered its priority. I forget what his name was. He was Sir, based in the Edinburgh branch of RBS. Hester actually inhabits an asylum on the far side of Edinburgh, just beyond where the Panda's food budget is £70,000 a year, and just past where the Belfinger bullshit company is that built the trams. It's Gogarburn Asylum. Okay, Gogarburn. There's Tony Blair, all of the masterminds, all of the people that all of the Kiwis laugh at as being buffoons. There's Berlusconi, the rapist. Underage sex takes the attention of all of their massive financial crimes. But when you publish that they might be exposed to common law and to beheadings for crimes against the people, then they get really, really jumpy. And Hester has no courage at all. Out he goes, like the Lithuanian David Miliband, yeah, into America and into safe havens. That's Ortario, the head of the Lloyds banking group. And what I want to show you first, because this is going to be entitled a footnote to the massive frauds that we've revealed about the Committee of 300, yeah. The Americans, like Bush, are on that, but it is hopelessly inconsistent, and what we've got largely is a focus on the British criminals, and that is why it's launched on our version of the internet. There's a lot of loyalty to the double agents that work in the false news sector. You know, if you try and report something in America that impacts on Bush's regime, then they will put it down. That's why they're happy to pick on the fat bloke called Soames, who's a relative of Winston Churchill, and they will dob on him and they will dob on Serco, but they will not dob on their own commanders-in-chief. He's the Spaniard that gets €9 million a year to asset strip the whole of the Lloyds banking group. I just wish I could get Goodwin, Fred Goodwin, Sir Fred Goodwin, left the RBS with all of his fortune intact, but stripped of the Sir label. Yeah, it is really, really sad that the world can stoop so low. There's Bob Diamond, friend of Boris Johnson, issued the bikes through the Barclays empire and fucked off with his 20 million pay bonus. And we've talked a lot about the people that get the massive bungs and performance related pay bonuses for being corrupted banksters and crashing the banks in 2008. Let me now take you to the bottom of the company directors for the Lloyds banking group that I was exposing when my batteries run out in the last video. Okay, so there's the company director check. Remember, it's the woman that works for the CIA and for the British Central Bank that we're focused on, and what we got down to was her interlocks with these people, and I forget which of the companies it was. What I'm going to do is take us to the bottom of the list and show you how many employees each of our companies has, and then I'll bring you back up to this point where we see that this woman here, Miss Heather Victoria Rabatts, is the woman that Gordon Bowden and I talk about all of the time in the Finchley Road boiler rooms that have been used by every Prime Minister in England since Mrs Thatcher and Dennis used the Finchley Road boiler rooms. Okay, and that's why Lord Hollick of North London is so prominent in the listings. Okay, and what we've got here are close parallels with the Usual Suspects movie. The folk that are called Redfoot and all of the stuff that occurs in front of the police inspector, it is a perfect parallel for what we've got here. Okay, there's the woman that we're tracking down. She's the dumb blonde who works for the CIA first and then is introduced into the central bank in England, the Bank of England, and she's allowed to interlock with all of these extremely powerful and greedy people. Okay, and what were we going to do? We're going to take you down, because what we've got to down below is the BP directorates. Okay, this may even be the BP directorates, but because the computer's a bit reluctant to move around, I cannot be sure of which. Okay, so there's the previous directors, where Heather Rabatts is a previous director on one of the companies for that woman who is the Julius person in the CIA and also on the court of the Bank of England. Okay, and we've done all of this in the previous video, so I'm tempted now that it's moving to go to the bottom and show you, until we get back up to Heather Rabatts, how many employees are being asset stripped in this ruthless attempt to steal the world's wealth from the citizens of the world. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start at the bottom of the page first, and I'm going to go up and show you what that Julius woman is involved in as an interlocking director. She's the one that works for the CIA and the Bank of England, on the board of the Bank of England, right up until the Canadian guy takes over. Okay, British Airways Pension Trustees Limited, no employees disclosed. So that's a director only operation, and we'll find that at the bottom of the listing. BP, British Petroleum PLC, number of employees relatively stable between 2010, when I came back from New Zealand and began to scrutinise all of this, and relatively stable right up to 2014. That's BP, run by the Kofi Annan, yeah, the head of the United Nations. It's run by Lord Patton. It's run by Christopher Chambers. He's the chairman. He's the advisor to Prince Charles. Yeah, it's really ruthless. Lord Patton, this is the BP that was accused of being the unacceptable face of capitalism, because it's run by Lonrho. Yeah, that's Lonrho and Lonmin, BP, Rosneft, all of them are the same set of criminal and world leaders. Okay, BE Pension Fund Trustees Limited, that's where Heather Rabatts pops up, because we were casting doubt about whether BE might be Belgium. Okay, this business has not provided any employee information, which means it's a director only scam. Okay, BE Pension Fund Trustees Limited, run by a woman on the court of the Bank of England who's a member of the CIA. When she's introduced to the court of the Bank of England, which why this is major international fraud and grand larceny. Okay, and when we get to the little Spanish criminal, it is really, really vicious, because he's asset stripping all of the high street jobs. Institute of Development Studies, the, in brackets, for obfuscation and difficulty of finding it reasons, resigned since 2003. Number of employees stable at 212 to 220 or so. Reasonably good. May, I don't know what that stands for, but you can look it up on Wikipedia and see what it stands for, and you can cite the woman whose name is let's check it out. I don't know how we got there. Religious fraud. Yeah. So that was the OneNote file that we were looking at for 2 days back to back, and without any input from me, it's been changed to another Spy Masters page. Okay, and we have no longer got access to what we were looking at this morning on OneNote, which is the woman who's the member of the CIA and a member of the Court of the Bank of England. Okay, and that other tab is nothing to do with her case either. Okay, so there we have it. I have no access to the control of my own computer, but I'm going to now dob on this woman and on the Ortario man who's the head of Lloyds Banking Group, because their crimes are absolutely massive. They're bailing out all of the financial services sector acquisitions, all of the mergers, all of the scams and the slight name changes that allow them to get away with murder in the Bruges sector. That's the assassination bureaus run by Mrs. Nick Clegg, also Portuguese. Okay, so May, here we've got British Airways Pension Investment Management Limited. When we go there, the director's site and the listing will be an empty whiteboard. Yeah, that's the whiteboard joke that Bill Clinton shares with the world, because the blackboard is no longer needed in global education, and that's a statement on the people that run the world and their coloration. Yeah, that is the white master race that have been written into world history since the Aryan myths were launched. Number of employees, British Airways Pension Investment Management Limited, relatively stable between 2010 when I came home to 42 in 2014. So 34 in 2010, 42 in 2014. Yeah, and that is all of the period where I've been unable to find work as an expert in neuroscience, an expert in fraud, and all of the reasons for the underfunding of governments, universities, and particularly sadly the students themselves, cast into a massive toxic debt pool. The British Airways scams we've explained before. The guy Cahill, who's an advisor to Gordon Brown and to Paddy Ashdown and to the other Irish people that get involved in the sectarian divide and the terror, yeah, and even in NATO's response to that and the British Army's Bloody Sunday issues. That's General Sir Mike Jackson, a criminal interlocked with Rebecca Brooks on the Malaria No More boards in Geneva in Switzerland, where Prince Charles's financial advisor runs companies like Delec, he runs the UBS. Yeah, and all of it is massive, and all of it is totally a crime against the people. So National Institute of Economic and Social Research Incorporated, resigned since 1999, stable with around 40 employees for all of that period of time between 2010 and 2014. Appointment, resigned. So the woman who's the CIA operative and the former personnel on the Court of the Bank of England under Mervyn King has bailed out of this since 1999. She's got 11 directorates in all on the business register, and this is just a listing of her interlocking directors. London Health Economics Consortium Limited. Okay, this is also a director only organisation. They only have 13 to 18 employees in all of that time span between 1996 and 1999. Isn't that clever that someone from the CIA yeah, can come in from 1997 and run companies in London involved in healthcare and the economics of massive Ponzi schemes? Lloyds Bank PLC, this is the really serious issue. Okay, so what Ortario's mission was to reduce the number of employees on the high street from 122,000 to as low as he could possibly take it. And what you've got here is between 2010 and 2013 he's reduced the workforce in the Lloyds banking high street presence, and that includes now the Co-op Bank and some of the Irish subsidiaries, and Peter Marks is particularly ruthless. So a lot of my statements on our savings are involved in the Britannia organisation. That is part of what the Co-op Bank became after they had asset stripped it in the Lloyds Verdi project. And the Lloyds Verdi project is a joke about taking it to the Verdi Islands, which are way out in the Atlantic off the Spanish coast. Okay, and that is the joke. What they're doing is they're getting rid of the innocent employees, the folk that get virtually no pension fund, because they know that these bastards have crashed it. Okay, and it's even worse at the RBS in the Bank of Scotland. They take their pensions when they're 30 because they know what is happening to the funds, and we know what is happening to the funds. And that little bastard Ortario, the Spaniard or the Portuguese, I can't remember which, has asset stripped all of those jobs in that sector already. Okay, my chicken is cooking in the kitchen and I need to go and turn it over. But let's get to the top of this. Lloyds Banking Group as well. Here we've got a different Ponzi shelf in the same corrupted organisation. They run a £1 trillion debt pool, a $1 trillion debt pool, a €1 trillion debt pool, and all of it funds with no capital at all of the asset stripping of the solvent banks. Okay, so 2012 they've got 113,000 employees, and in 2013 that's down to 98,000. Okay, that's on the high streets of Britain, run by the Spaniard, and it's very, very similar to the asset stripping that is happening in the energy companies. That's Iberdrola, Professor Galan, friend of the fat bastard that is the SNP leader Alex Salmond, millionaire from the banking sector and a traitor to his country. Okay, I'm going to have to go and turn that cook. Oh no, we're at the Serco Group PLC, 94,000 right down in 2009. So this one that is about cross-border control, human trafficking and running diasporas like we've got in the Mediterranean this very week, where the refugees are being drowned in the Med because they've got nowhere to go as they flee from Syria and the brutalised Holy Lands. Okay, so what you've got here is that the number of employees as time passes rises from 57,710 to 94,000 as they run the Serco frauds under the surviving relatives of Winston Churchill, who's the fat bastard Soames. And even the Americans are prepared to reveal that because it's happening in Europe. Theresa May is running it, and the human trafficking is really evil, which is part of the reason why Angelina Jolie got her cancer and why William Hague has been forced to resign. William Hague's links to the Prince's Trust and to his sister working in the Prince's thrall, and all of those contracts that they get in the corrupted B-Sky B sector through the Rothschilds, Henry Kissinger, the links to the Russia funds and the Future of Russia Foundation and the Hermitage Museum. It's absolutely massive. The G8 countries own all of the suppressed countries in the developing world, including massive countries like China and Russia. It is a tragedy for the world's people that they are manipulated in this way. Okay, so I'm gonna stop now, and it's really sad that I cannot show you the woman that worked for the CIA, because the bastards have shut down my OneNote page that we were referring to before, and they've now shown us someone who's the ally in Turkey of Greg Hallett. That's the spy master. The real Greg Hallett has been killed. Okay, and Lord Lucan now runs a taxi business and drives the taxis in Turkey. That's the Constantinople joke. That's the joke about the Ukrainian area and about the Dardanelles and all of the culling of all of the troops and all of the navies in those conflicts that we've been talking about for several days now. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and no, I'm not. I'm going to take you up until we find that Heather Rabatts woman and the boiler rooms in Finchley. Okay, so this is the bottom of those companies: Salisbury's, Maynard's, Gunnings, Scott's, Brands, Julius. There she is. That's the woman from the CIA on the court of the Bank of England. Okay, the Bank of England is not on any business register. It has no regulation since Mervyn King opted out of that. Okay, it's a scandal. It's a set of international crimes that will lead to the execution of the participants. But that is a really risky policy, as I've already explained, because the courts and the judiciary are just as corrupted as the politicians, but not as corrupted as the ruthless money lenders who run the assassination bureaus and every war and revolution and religious martyrdom campaign that the citizens of the world are exposed to through all of biological history. Right then, I'm going to go really quickly because we've spent 4 videos on this. Dr. Sandra Elizabeth Mooney. Yeah, that's one of the people that are involved in local frauds here. Mr. Alistair Cameron David Cumming, the Charles Bromwich. Yeah, everything that is in popular culture and in the sporting sector is a cover for criminals in the massive global frauds. Sellers, Sandra Jean Sellers, Thomas Mitchell, Osmond. Yeah, the Osmond brothers, and the sister, I forget what the sister's name was, Paul Spencer, Stephen William Mallet, Tomlin, Boutillier, Southcott, Bretherton, Maunder, British Airways, Pensions Trustees Limited, Clayton, Grayson, Hanratty, Perrell, Ashburton, Sir Thomas, Fulton, Wilson. MacKillop takes us back to the female saint in Australia, Australia's first saint, as a cover-up for the criminals in the United Nations who were gifted that job because they were already totally corrupted directors at the RBS. Sir Robin Buchanan Nicholson, Sir Robert Peter Wilson, Horton, Ulver, Walters, Buchanan, Glover, Prosser, Block, Lowry, Ford, Ahern, Chase, Ferris, Gazolet, Mr. Peter Dennis Sutherland. Yeah, the Dukes and Duchesses of Sutherland. The people that run the cotton plantations, the people that send the colonists to the colonies, and that is the Commonwealth myth. Mr. Henry Michael Pearson Miles, my mates the Pearsons again. Mr. Errol Brown Davis Jr. Mr. Douglas Jardine Flint, that will be Motley Flint's relatives. Mr. Brian K. Sanderson, the Sandersons that sacked me on the river for refusing to kill fish, and the Sandersons that negotiate the EU fish quotas for 30 years in the House of Lords, since Mrs. Thatcher was a criminal in Finchley, and her husband Dennis taught her how to steal from our people and to send the world to war on other continents. And he's a great favourite of the Twickenham fan base. It's the rugby people in the white jerseys for death. Okay, Strombergs, there's the Julius woman again. Grote, Anthony Bryan Hayward, Ashdowns, Hannah Ashdown, Bertelson, David John Jackson, the Jackson name again, yeah, General Sir Michael Jackson. Financial crimes are massive. 100 crashed of 102 ran. Patricia Dowling, Cynthia Blum Carroll, Robert Warren Dudley, Nelco Robert Nelson, yeah, takes us back to the ships and the might of the oak ships sailing from Britain in the Portsmouth region, and Sir Francis Drake with the cami knickers always intrigued me. Yeah. Admiral US Navy Frank Lee, in inverted commas, Skip Bowman. Yet this is the sinking ship sector, where you get prizes for brutalising the opposition, even if they have a relatively small army and navy like the Argentinians do. They are riddled with fascism in the elites that have the vast tracts of land on shore in the massive South American continent. That's the BP PLC company that is run by admirals. There is no mention in that subsidiary of BP of Christopher Chambers, the advisor to Prince Charles. Okay, I did not notice it if it was there. Catherine Louise Foster, Ian Alexander Keynes, Mr. Christopher Ronald Bennell, BE Pension Fund Trustees Limited. Okay, this is where we left off, and this is where I'm going to stop, because it takes us back to Finchley Road and to the blocks of flats with the Del Boy affiliation. Yeah, that's Boydell Books, which is the Del Boy joke. Boydell Books is an elite book company, but Heather Rabatts is a massive financial criminal. She runs the boiler rooms for Hollick, for the Prime Ministers, including Tony Blair. There is no political division. Yet the Browns are in there pitching as criminals and fraudsters, and they're quite happy to sell Britain's gold to the EU, provided they get some personal gain from it. The personal gain is massive. The country gets no benefits from any of the transactions, and we are impoverished, and all of the children now pay £50,000 for the honours degree that all of these bastards got for nothing. I'm going to stop. Okay, that is the footnote video on the massive frauds that we've been reporting on the Committee of 300. Yeah, all of the British Royals are on it. Nick Clegg's on it. All of the current day criminals, except for the jokers and the media cover-up. That's David Beckham. He plays the jocular role along with Ali G. They cover up the religious part of the story, and remember that Pope Benedict was part of the original video that we made, and that Pope Francis, even although he's limping really badly, and that the Vatican was absolutely bombarded with a violent lightning storm the night that he was inaugurated. All of that has been written out of the history of the Vatican for reputational reasons. Yeah, they are sad, sad bastards, and they are stealing from all of the world's people, and I'm going to bring it to an end. The weather outside is absolutely magnificent. Okay, it is totally, the world outside is subdued in the lyrics of the ABBA song. Yeah, I do not like to talk about ABBA because that's a joke about the stealing of all of the central banks from the world and the massive religious fraud that means that the Pope has to be put in a safe house because he is helping people like her to steal from the whole world. Okay, bye bye. That's episode 4. That is the footnote to the story about the woman from the CIA who is on the court of the Bank of England. Yeah, it is sick, sick, sick.